Okay, it is 5 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to class again today. And my name is Jessica Ochoge Daniels, and for today, our facilitator is Babashola Kuti, and he'll be taking us on the role of opposition in politics. And as usual, please let your colleagues know that classes has commenced and attendance is very crucial. Okay, before I invite our facilitator on him, I don't know if he's in the room already. Lisa,
no,
should I go on? Okay.
No, he's not. Let's just give him a few minutes to join in.
Okay, thank you. Please take this opportunity to get your members on the call. Thank you.
Okay, please go ahead. You're muted.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Okay, sorry about this. Good evening, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to read a brief bio on our facilitator before I hand over the class to him. Mr. Babasola Kuti is a seasoned politician, entrepreneur, and social analyst. He holds a degree in business information systems with human resource management from Middlesex University Business School in London. Founder of Afri Products Limited in 1999. Innovative ventures for over 16 years, goods, business development, exports, and trading. Afri Products Technology Arm, in a joint venture, introduced small denomination mobile recharge vouchers in Nigeria and launched the country's first e-commerce enabled website, Circa, in 1999. Shola Kuti's political journey includes serving as a special assistant to Senator Toks Ogunbanjo in the Nigerian Senate from 2003 to 2007. Not a political novice, he aimed for the governorship of Lagos in 2015, running an impressive campaign. Additionally, he contributed to the PDP Presidential Campaign Council in 2011 and 2015 elections, advocating for the party's ideals on various platforms, including multiple TV appearances. Passionate about youth involvement in politics, Shola, our facilitator for today, mentors young entrepreneurs, emphasizing the importance of their participation. Now, our facilitator, thank you so much, sir, for being here today. And over to you, sir.
Thank you for having me. I hope there are not many Arsenal or Man City fans in the house today, because apparently there's a very hot football match going on. So I hope that we'll have obviously your undivided attention if there are. Yeah, so yeah, we're going to be talking about the role of opposition in Nigerian politics. And essentially we're going to be looking at how we can successfully survive in the political terrain in Nigeria as an opposition party. I know that seems like the opposition parties are an endangered species. And the funny thing, when I started taking this class, things were pretty precarious, but not as bad as they are today. And as we've gone on in this, I've taken more of these lectures, there's just, it's just becoming, more apparent that we do have a serious problem in Nigeria. So it's something that we have to look at and, look at together and find a way to successfully survive within the hostile terrain that we find ourselves in. So essentially, the first thing we will look at is what opposition is as it relates to politics. So opposition is said to be the largest non-government party or coalition of parties in the National Assembly. Now, this is the definition that suits more of the parliamentary system like the one we use in the UK, where every single person who is a minister or a member or even a shadow minister will actually have to go and contest for elections in their constituency. And when they do that, they come to the center, the leader of the party with the most seats becomes the prime minister. So any other party that comes second, essentially in an election, is basically the main opposition party, as we call them in Nigeria. So for instance, in Nigeria now, we can argue that the PDP is the main opposition party, but every other party that is not in government at the federal level is an opposition party at the federal level. But at the state level, for instance, in Akwa Ibom, PDP is not an opposition party in Akwa Ibom. PDP is the ruling party. So all the other parties, so APC will be obviously the next largest, the main opposition in Akwa Ibom, and same thing with Rivers and all the other states. So what is opposition's job? What is the job of opposition? What is the main job that opposition has to do? And I think it's to hold government accountable, nothing else. I think that the role of opposition is so important, if not more important than the role of government, because as we have seen in different, through the cycles of presidency in Nigeria, different parties have held, the fort, and we have seen what happens when opposition is dwindled away or is playing the role of the friend of government. When people cross carpet and go to another party, they weaken opposition, and we've seen all that. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the challenges that opposition parties have in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole. So the job is to hold government account. And how do they do it? So it's more or less by looking at what government is saying and doing. So looking at the policies and the actions, and then finding areas where they can positively criticize and also propose an alternative solution. So it's not enough to say you are driving too fast. You must come and say, or you're driving too slow. You must come and say, you need to drive, at this speed because it's safe. It's not just to tell the person to drive fast. It's to also tell them what speed they need to drive at, where it is safe to navigate. So essentially, opposition should look at what government does in education, in health, in different areas, and then come up with their own sort of like fixes to the problems that the government is encountering. And most of the time, you find that opposition will criticize, and they may even suggest, these so-called alternatives. But you find that once they become the ruling party and they start to implement those alternatives, it becomes a problem for them as well. So it's not as if when you propose an alternative, it's just based on doing the opposite. You must also look at the reality of those alternatives, and make sure that whatever you're proposing is you're able to do it. I mean, there are many examples. We'll touch on some of them later. So what are some of the things that promote good opposition? Very simple. I mean, this is like ABC. So if you have a free and fair election, obviously, there will be good opposition because there'll be less bitterness. People won't feel like they were cheated out. They won't feel like you don't deserve to be there. So they will criticize you a bit more decently, so to speak. I mean, I'm sure some of us are following today's event in Edo, where, again, as it always looks, that there's not been, a completely straightforward election. And again, this is going to just build up more bad blood. Whereas if INEC had gone about doing their job transparently, and they are shown and seen to be doing that job transparently, I think people would kind of like say, look, we lost, and they will take defeat. And I look forward to the time when people will lose elections and actually say, you know what, like Jonathan did, hands up, I lost, let's move on. It will create that next item, which is the good political climate. And as you all will agree with me, we don't have that in Nigeria today. What we have is a hostile political climate of, anti-democratic forces doing all sorts of things that are endangering the space. And then the third thing we need is support from the citizens. Something, again, over the years has been misused by a lot of opposition parties. And when we look at the factors that prevent having a good opposition, it's mostly the opposite of what I've just said. So if you have a hostile climate, including threats to freedom of speech and association, then you have a problem, because then nobody who opposes the government will be able to speak freely or associate with another political party that isn't that party of the government, without being dragged into jail, as we saw during Buhari's era when he came into power and locked all the PDP people in jail. So much so people started decamping to the other party. That kills opposition. When citizens don't engage with opposition parties and help to lend, their voice in support of what the opposition parties are doing. And I mean, this is not to say that citizens can't disagree with some of the opposition parties' policies or ideas. It is to say that we need to support them as much as we can so that the voices are louder. When the party in power sees that, well, perhaps maybe there's a little bit of, force behind some of the ideas, they might actually consider implementing a few of them. Again, something that we see a lot of poor quality leadership in opposition parties, it actually ruins having a good opposition, because what happens most of the time, once elections are over, these opposition parties melt into what they call it, the camping structures, where people are decamping and welcoming the ruling party and doing all sorts and just making a mockery of democracy. And then also a poor organization of opposition, which is what we are seeing today. With the PDP and the Labour Party and all the other parties, we don't see them working together or standing on the same issues. For instance, I mean, just imagine that it was a PDP government in power and APC was in opposition in 2015 and all this was happening. I mean, people would have gone into the villa and dragged the president out, I'm sure, because of the way they would have gone about, the propaganda behind the messages and the, how they know how to rile Nigerians up with all sorts of stories. You can see that the opposition parties are so badly organized, they are busy infighting, and which is quite unfortunate, because when you think about it, somebody has probably given somebody something to create chaos in their party. And you ask yourself, how does that help the cause? Even if they give you something and you collect it, and you go to the petrol station, will you not still buy petrol at the same price that other people are buying it? So it's like almost like people are not forward thinking enough to realize that the patriotism sometimes is not because it doesn't mean that you're a good person. It just means that you are protecting your interests. It's a selfish. Patriotism must be selfish, basically. So I have this beautiful example of what poor opposition is. And the funny thing, like I said, every time I do these lectures and we go through these slides, it's almost as if the message is becoming louder and louder, because I used this for subsidy saga in 2014. I have to admit, I was one of the people who was I was in PDP, but I was also protesting. But my protest was different. I was like, look, if you want to take subsidy away, by all means do that. But before you do that, put something in place that will, basically support, this subsidy removal. I wanted to see what the palliatives were, and I wanted to see them working before I could agree with subsidy removal. But by and large, we've seen that even that argument mathematically was driven by emotion, because now we can see that even today, that there's the same people that went and protested at Ojota are the ones in government. They tell you they have removed subsidy. Fuel is almost like, petrol is almost like 1,000 naira a liter or 1,100 naira a liter, but yet, they are still telling you that they are paying subsidy. And we can see that, at that time, people were so riled up. I mean, look at that poster. It says 65 naira. It's almost unbelievable, that at the time we're looking at 100 naira or so, and we're like, no, and, at the end of the day, we see the results of bad opposition. Because now that it also means that, I don't think, to be fair to APC, I don't think they really understood the subsidy regime. I agree, there was fraud in the subsidy regime, because people will say they imported X amount of petrol in, they'll collect the sort of like the extra money for subsidy from the government, but they didn't import anything. So there were companies that were defrauding the government, but it's a totally different thing from what we're seeing today, because now we know that there was real subsidy. We thought it was a waste, but we're more worried about the ones that didn't even bring anything to the country and were collecting free money. And because of that, some of us really felt we need to support the protests. Another poor example, which is even more recent, so a lot of us who may not have even witnessed the Ojota imbroglio will know about this G5 opposition thing. So essentially, we know the story. Some governors felt that they had to work with the opposition. Forget all the stories about calling for power shift to the south and all of that. Is that they believe that they wanted to work with Tinubu for whatever reason, whatever agreements they had, and they believe that it was the way to go. And based on that agenda, they basically killed their own party, more or less, which is the PDP, to go and work with the APC. Today, you hear Seyi Makinde complain about the effects on his people in Oyo State. We don't hear from all these other ones again. Wike is in government, working for the APC, which for me, as he said, he wrote to the PDP, to the organs of the PDP, and they accepted for him to go and work with the APC. So I have no problem with that at all. Because he will argue that Bola Ige did the same when he was in AD. He came to work for Obasanjo in PDP. So I have no argument. The fact that he had written to them and they, in their own wisdom, thought to accept it, that's their problem, is between Wike and them. But what I see as bad opposition was that today, the decisions they made are affecting the whole of Nigeria. I have businesses in Nigeria that have been annihilated by this government in terms of bad policies and all sorts. So for me, I'm like, well, at the end of the day, even the Wike that is still in government, it will be feeling the effects, because people of Rivers will be frowning at him now that, Oga, this is your guy that you brought. He's killing us now. And as Sean Kuti said, that people are saying that the government is taking tough decisions, Tinubu is taking tough decisions. And I loved what he said. He said, there's a difference between a tough decision and a wicked decision. He said Tinubu is taking wicked decisions. He said if he was taking tough decisions, he would be battling with the subsidy people and the big men like himself and stopping the way they are pilfering Nigeria's money. He won't be coming to where the people are to take tough decisions. He'll be taking those tough decisions with his mates. Then we will know he's serious. And I really absolutely agree with that. At the end of the day, this was very bad opposition because and it has happened before. It happened when Buhari became president. 5 governors also left at the time or whatever. They call themselves, I can't remember what they call themselves now. They left G6 or whatever they left. And we had a bad government. I thought people would have learned from that, but obviously not. So what is our role, me and you as citizens, in all this? I think I always say this, and I will always say this, that the citizen must not be a partaker in Nigerian politics. You must be what's that, Oliver Twist. So essentially, you must be someone who's always demanding from the government for more and more. They do a 10-kilometer route. Fantastic. Why can't we do another 10 kilometers or another 50 kilometers? It will get to this place and that will make things easier. We must really, really put government under pressure to perform. It is very sad for me when I see people commissioning, doing what they call it, something groundbreaking or laying foundation ceremony, and they bring dancers, tents, spend hundreds of millions just to put 2 blocks down. That money is not better spent on the project, for instance. So we need to become a bit more critical of government and stop applauding all this. Somebody did a 2-kilometer road and you start clapping, then 3 months later it rains, the road washes away. So we need to become hard to please. Let me put it like that. And that's what our role is in this. So to conclude, I would say that opposition is a lot more important, than government. Opposition is what will put government on her toes. The main opposition party is not supposed to be the darling, but the idea is basically that, like in this country, there are 2 parties that will win elections. It will be the Conservatives or Labour. Some of the times, they will have to parley with somebody else to get the numbers to form government. But the point is that those 2 are sacrosanct. They will win the most seats. So we basically have agreed within ourselves. For instance, I'm a member of the Liberal Democrats. But in this last election, I voted Labour because I knew the Liberal Democrats were not going to win as many seats, but I didn't want the Conservatives back. So I was like, you know what? This one is just to remove these Liberal Democrats and bring a new change to government. And that's how people should think. You don't vote for my own party now. I think my own party now has a chance of really making good grounds in the next election. You know why? Because we have removed the 2 big ones, or one of the big ones. The other one that is there, 2 has now started fumbling. So they will say, well, actually, we have not tried this 3rd one. Perhaps we should go to Liberal Democrats. So it's basically, you have to basically calculate and thinking, far ahead of the game for you to succeed in politics. You can't be thinking all the time that, you know what? Like, for instance, this Edo thing, no brainer. Why were other parties running? Collapse. Let somebody, first of all, ensure that the party that is dealing with us in Nigeria doesn't get there. If they had lost Edo woefully, Tinubu not sit down in the village and be thinking, God, how am I going to win 2027? The people have spoken. But yes, we can argue that they rig, but there's a way that people will come out in force to vote that they will rig and rig and rig and rig. They will not be able to do it. Parties can only rig when people don't come out. Because, see, there are 200 people in a polling unit. 50 show up. That 150 is rigging. You've given people but if all 200 of you show up, game over now. They can't come and line up that it's 300 people that are there. So it's things I try and encourage people to really think critically, stop thinking emotionally, and even for governments, even when we support PDP or LP and they're getting power. For instance, in Abia State, I can see what's happening. Everybody is now saying this man is the best governor in the world. The people in LP will not agree for you to criticize him. And this is the danger. Give it another year. He will become, remember I said it, he will become a god. Nobody will be able to talk to him. Then he will start doing all sorts of nonsense. And then the people in LP will start complaining about him. But at that stage, it's too late. So we must recalibrate and understand that government is not our friend. Government is our servant. So we must treat them like people who we expect to deliver goods and services to us, not like gods or our friends or our kings in the village. I think for me, that is it. I'll be happy to take any questions. I hope you've enjoyed the lecture, short as it was, but I'm happy to take any questions from anyone, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for today. If you have any questions, you can raise up your hand and you'll be given the opportunity to ask, or if you prefer.
I think you may be frozen. Can anybody hear me?
I'm guessing he did justice to the topic, so there are no questions.
Questions or comments or contributions, as the case may be. No, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, good. Okay.
Lisa?
Yeah, I said I'm guessing he did justice to the topic. So that's why there are no questions.
They are going to watch football or something. Well, I mean, if there are no questions, that is fine. But if anybody wants to ask,
okay, someone actually left a comment in the chat box. Jessica, do you want to read that?
Okay.
Okay, I think Jessica is not here. Okay, so Summer of Form is saying that your presentation has stated clearly how to strengthen the opposition. My worry has always been the massive defection after elections are concluded. So would you want to answer that? So?
Yeah, I mean, it's a worry for, I talked about it in my presentation as well. It's a big worry for everyone, because once that happens, then essentially you are weakening opposition, and it means that the ruling party will then be able to perpetrate any injustices on the people, because there's nobody to oppose them, really. And it's not just about, even if there are people still talking, they will look at them and think, well, look, the big fish in your party have already defected. So even if the election comes, people cannot, we cannot beat us. So we have nothing to worry about. I think that something has to be done, to really, technically, to be honest, parties all over the world have defections. There's no doubt about that. But what they don't do, they don't take tickets with them. So I won't win an election on PDP and then defect to APC. It doesn't happen. You first of all, relinquish your seat before you do that. To say, yes, you know what, I don't even want to be a part of this party. I don't want your ticket. I don't want the seat that I've won with your name. Take it. I'll go and contest on another party, which shows obviously some level of integrity, rather than what we have, where even governors defect for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes they have good reasons to defect, but most of the time, I think it's unfortunate, especially when you see what's going on in River State, where people that we saw, this one is not that they told us. We saw videos of them defecting, holding broom and APC banners and celebrating. Then today they are saying they didn't defect. yes, they may not have officially become members of the APC, but that's not our business. The fact that they announced on the floor of the House that they were leaving the party, so for these kind of things to happen and for courts to be part of it, just shows that, we have a really, really long way to go. I think, honestly, I don't think my children can enjoy the democracy that Nigeria has to offer. It will be my great grandchildren or something like that, unfortunately.
Okay, I think someone else has dropped another comment. Titilayo said the major blow to the opposition is the issue of defection or cross. And then Eloy Michael is asking that, is there a possibility for opposition to work along the incumbent government for the growth of the nation without much negative criticism? I mean by criticizing without bias.
Well, when you say something is negative criticism, what would we say? What would we apportion as negative criticism? I mean, there isn't technically positive criticism. You can't say, "Oh, you are handsome," and that's criticism. It isn't. But the point is that it is being able to be objectively critical. So it's making sense out of. So you don't just say, "We don't like your policy. We don't like your policy because X, Y, Z." And you don't work, opposition parties don't work for government, because no matter how good a government is, they can never be perfect. And what you are trying to do is achieve a just and perfect society if you can. You probably can, but the idea is to strive to achieve that. So if you want to excuse anybody's bad behavior for that reason, you will find that they will just keep on getting worse. Because they say nobody's going to challenge us if we did that, or we paid 50,000 minimum wage. Nobody challenged us. Look, in fact, let's not even pay wages this month. Nobody will say anything. So you've got to be careful when you suggest that opposition works with government, because then there will be no opposition. I think that opposition is there not to help God. They are critical friends of government, so they're not there to be, "Oh, yes, you are doing well." They're there to look at things and say, "This can be done better." I think that is the focus, and we should never lose sight of that.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Jessica, are you back?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have another question. Sir, is it right or lawful for opposition parties to organize a protest over a sitting government that is perceived to be not doing well?
Yes, of course it is. Why not? Okay. Are they not citizens of the country? The Constitution itself has said to us, if you feel you're not happy with the situation, protest. It is your God-given right. So it doesn't matter whether it's opposition parties or citizens or someone that owns a bookshop or anybody. The fact is that as long as you're not happy, so even a foreigner can come and protest if it's in your country. After all, Mokri was protesting about Leah Sharibu all over the world. Nobody stopped him. They didn't arrest him in London. He went and protested in front of Buhari's house in London. Nobody arrested him. The police even just put a cordon and told them, "Don't pass this place." So we've got to start to think a bit differently in Nigeria. If not, you might think that, okay, these ideas that you are espousing are because you are the party in power. What happens when you're not in power? That is why some of us from time have always criticized the PDP, because that's the way I know politics. Politics has to be about truth. If because you're in a party, you're afraid to speak. And for a long time, for maybe a decade or so, nobody ever called me into a committee, because they knew that if I was coming to that committee, I was going to disrupt things, because they already had a way of doing their thing. They didn't want that to change. It was only after Jonathan lost the election that High Chief Dr. God rest his soul was able to now bring a lot of us younger ones on board into the PDP and give us a seat at the table. Because before that, they wouldn't even, what? I mean, a former governor, former minister has told me, "We don't know anything, we are small boys." And then we reminded him that, "Sir, you were 20-something years old when you were first in government. Were you not a small boy then?" you know. So they don't like to be around us because we make them uncomfortable. But it's the point I'm making that even within your own party, you must be a voice of reason. Because some of these decisions people are making today, you may be a beneficiary, so you may be a friend of government. And believe me, as much as I've been in the PDP all my political life, or most of it, I have more family, more friends. My father is in APC. My whole family, the Kuti family, most of them are APC. You know, so they're always teasing me when I'm in their midst. But the point is that as much as I can benefit from it, today, many of them came to me and told me, Kai, and you warned us in 2015, you know, because it's the reality. These things will still affect you one way or the other. So you must even try and talk sense to your friends in your party. Hey, guys, I used to tell them in PDP, I can show you articles that we go and Google PDP reform or die, Shola Kuti. I wrote that article in 2013 or something. I've been telling them since, if you continue like this, you're going to kill this party. But look at today, because look, there has to be a voice of reason everywhere that you are for things to work for the benefit of all. Because you don't know where you will be. Like somebody said, I think it was Ketenshaw, she said, because you know me, I don't know that woman, she's an actress, police said, okay, let her go. He said, what if you didn't know me? What if I was nobody? And that is the question I always ask you. Today, you can enter somewhere because you are somebody. What happens when you can't? Or when somebody that doesn't know anybody, is now on the scene? Are we expecting that people should not succeed if they don't know anybody in Nigeria? The answer is no. We want it to be a level playing field.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another question, will it be undemocratic to bring up laws that will make migration or crossing to other parties unattractive and difficult?
Yes, it will be undemocratic to stop people from crossing over. You see, this is why I like these classes, because sometimes these are really innocent questions. Because I've just boasted now about the freedom to protest. There's also freedom of association. So freedom of association, you can feel free to associate with, even if you show go or Ogun you want to worship, nobody will disturb you as long as you don't break the law. So it also assumes that you must be free to decide, okay, you know what, PDP is not working for me anymore. I want to try somewhere else. And sometimes, like I said, I said earlier that some people have crossed over for selfish reasons, and some have crossed over for good reasons. Let me educate you guys quickly. Do you know that in 2003, 2004, when Obasanjo won that election, an article left to go to AD, people will say, hey, he's always leaving the party. Do you know that his own ward in Adamawa State, the chairman said Atiku is not a registered member of PDP in that ward? So he was not, yes, okay. A sitting vice president, again, like I said, I'm a very good student of history, even though I'm not a political scientist. I might as well be, because these things stick in my head. So basically, it took away his membership from him in PDP. So he had no choice to leave. In 2014 or so, when they left again, when the G6 or whatever, the G7, whatever they call themselves, left, again, what was the reason? It was because their delegates were locked out of the convention. They wanted Jonathan to be president by all means. So the convention that was not, it wasn't the convention that was electing Jonathan. Now listen to this. It was the convention that was electing the new working committee for the party, where Babanga took him. They locked Saraki's delegates out. They locked articles. So they were twisting these people, trying to finish them within the party. Again, when you do that to somebody, you give him no option but to go somewhere else. It's almost like locking the door of your house and telling you you can't come in. You go and sleep somewhere else now until there's peace or they say, yeah, come. So it is some of these things that lead to people leaving the party. That's why the law cannot stop them. Because then if somebody then denies you a membership in a party and the law says you cannot cross over, then that means you are politically finished. And the law doesn't want you to not have a choice. What the law does say is that if you are a member of parliament, either State House of Assembly or federal, senator or house of, or once you're a lawmaker, you cannot decamp from your party while being in office as a lawmaker. You must relinquish your seat. But it also gives some caveats like, unless you can prove that there's an actual division in the party that is stopping you from functioning. And in every party, even if there's no division, when they want to decamp, they'll go and say, we have a faction. So they'll create the division themselves, and then they'll decamp. And then when the law says, they say, no, but start, look, there's a division, and see on social date, these people form the faction, and so on and so. So it's just a mess. I think it can be tightened. The law can be tightened to make it unattractive, especially for office holders to decamp. I think that can be done.
Okay.
It won't stop them from decamping. What you say, if you are decamping, leave the office for the party. That would be beautiful. But again, people can then use that against you and force you to decamp so that they can collect your seats. So you see, the law is really an ass, eh?
Right. That's interesting. We have another question, and it's actually related to what I want to know too. Is it only political parties that play the role of opposition, or can individuals that are not affiliated with any party also serve as an opposition?
Yeah, of course. I mean, individuals, civil society groups, you see that they are even louder than political parties most of the time. The NLC is like an opposition party half of the time. Whether you increase fuel, they say, no, the workers cannot afford it. Anything you do affects the common man. So they are like, but also the individual is opposition too. Because whatever government does that affects you negatively, you must speak up. But the difference is that the individual only has one voice. Individual, how many individuals are going to go to TV? Those people that you see on TV, don't think that is free. You go there, you give them money, 200, 350,000. Even the people that go and talk on behalf of parties, they pay them. The talking heads, they pay most of them. Yes, because I mean, Abuja, you call me and say you are paying on a TV show in Lagos. I might well going to pay for my airfare, hotel, allowance. You pay, so it's not free, and it shouldn't be free. Because the truth is that if you want something good, you've got to be ready to pay for it. If you want people that are intelligent, well-schooled, learned, speak well, you have to be able to get them in your party and then pay them to do this job. For instance, here, I always want to talk about it, for you to understand what the role of opposition is, how critical it is. In this country, when you lose election, the party that comes second, so if I have 300 people in parliament, for instance, if my own party has 200, your own party has 100, now you come second, or maybe your own party has 80, the next one has 20, you come second. The people that come second too will form what they call shadow cabinet. So for every minister you have, if you have a minister of health, you need to have a minister of health, shadow. If you have a minister of home office, I'll have a minister and you know what? Guess what? They must all have won their election in their locality, so they must be MPs, so members of parliament. But more interestingly, they get paid the same as ministers.
Wow.
Yes, they get the same perks, the same number of staff as ministers. So when this government, when Labour won from Conservatives, they already had a set of people that had done the job for years as shadow. So all they did, they just came and they just became minister. It was a no-brainer. So they've also trained them. They've also done the research. They also know the job before they come into power. So the minute they win the election, they're ready for office. You don't even need to ask who is going to be, because these people have been working and doing the job for the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. So and the thing that really trips me is that the fact that they pay them the same. You understand? They have an office, everything like normal, but they are opposition ministers. I'm just hearing that for the first time. Yes, it's an interesting concept, but I think it's the best show. And we try to sell this to the PDP at some point when we lost in 2015. And what we said was that we had X amount of governors. The party has funds that they waste on rubbish. Let us put it together and do a pay structure for a shadow cabinet, so that when it's time to challenge a policy of government, the person that's going to talk is also a doctor, He's had experience, maybe a former minister in PDP, but he's the shadow person. He goes and defends that role, and he has a retinue of staff who are doing the research and everything, so that we're not just, like they said, criticizing for the fun of it. We're actually ready to take over. When we take over, those things that we have said, we will now have to implement them. But because you have the office, the retinue of office, you have the same mindset as a minister, you are ready for the job from day one. There's nobody that knows who are we going to choose for Minister of Health. You already know who it is.
Yes.
But you already have on-the-job experience. So it's things like that we suggest that we should fund it ourselves and just develop people so that when we're talking, we're making a lot more sense to Nigerians.
Wow, this is new information to me. Thank you, sir. Okay, we have one more question. Okay, I think it's a comment. Opposition should provide constructive criticism. We are all citizens and everyone should have the best interest of our nation and its people in mind.
I agree.
There are no more questions.
100%. I was just going to post my social media handles for anyone who wants to follow me, interact with me, ask me questions. Okay, somebody just asked a question again.
Well, one more question. Yes, sir. Knowing how scarce quality information is, how effective will those shadow ministers be?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. They have a whole team. In the UK, they have if the minister has 10 advisors and they're paying them £100,000, they are paying his own 200,000. There's no story there. So when he's employing them, they're not thinking, who wants to come and work for free? So that's why you can see when the Prime Minister of Britain lost the election, it didn't take them 3 months to swear him in. He was in his office the next day. He already had his first meeting. Because everybody is working, they're ready. And that, I always say the UK is the best transition system ever in the world. America is more like, we kind of like were colonized by the UK, but we adopted some of the American principles because our politicians are very greedy. The UK system is too simple for them. Just members of parliament, finish. So they went to create local government, this one. Although we have all those, we have councils here as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that whether or not you are, Nigeria, for instance, will be a bit more difficult because you have to pay these people. But I'm saying that if we're serious and our concern is Nigeria, the PDP, instead of funding bribe for election and all those things, they will fund this kind of thing where it's like a think tank. People are bringing out. In fact, the citizens will be like, we can't wait to try this idea that people have said. So we're going to vote for them. The reason why people don't go out for elections is because they know that now who spend money pass, now who start ballot box pass. So people are not interested. And then they always ask themselves at the end, okay, when PDP wins, then what? What is the need for me? Nothing. Because nobody has discussed policies or saying somebody's not coming and say, oh, when I come in, this school loan will dash you the money. It will be free. Then people are going to go for this person because this university loan is going to be free. You have to come and create, something that will make people vote for you. Something that will make people come out on election day. Feel that they need to support you. But in Nigeria, we know that just save the money and give it to INEC, and police. And that's the end of the story. And it's true. So that's why our country is also suffering from lack of development and all the problems that we're facing. But I think we'll come through it. We need to come to a level where we crash the system and everybody's eyes will be clear. And then politicians will kind of like behave themselves again, for a while.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have one more question. Does Nigerian political parties really have ideology that drive them, like in other climes?
Well, the truth is that what is ideology really? In Nigeria, do we talk about which party wants to adopt a stance against abortion, which party wants people to carry guns. That is what is the ideology of the parties here? The Labour Party is like NLC. We are pro people. We want business, everybody to get paid well. We want the workers to be happy. That's Labour Party. Conservatives, no, we are pro business. We are hoity-toity. You know, the people who went to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, were the ones that, you know, our fathers were, you know, earls and this. So is that an ideology in itself? What is the ideology of the Democratic Party in the US? What is the ideology of the Republican? Nobody knows. People just talk about ideology. What is Trump's ideology? The people in the Republican Party don't even like Trump. But because he's so strong, and they know that if they go against him, they will lose the elections as well. They use him to win their small Senate elections so that they can be in power and they tolerate him. You know, so I think we overemphasize that word ideology because we think it means that we're not robots. Even if somebody tells you, I am pro, like for instance, the Democrats, they believe that abortion should be the right of everybody. Nobody should stop. The Republicans say no. Abortion should be legal. But it's not everybody in the Republican Party or every senator who agrees with it. Do you understand? They may not speak up against it because they don't want to lose election, but they don't believe it. They don't want it. They want, you know, so, and there are also, for instance, now Republicans who are supporting Kamala. So there's a group called Republicans for Kamala, and some of them are serving in the Republican Party. They're senators and House of Rep members. So we talk about ideology a lot. If you go to PDP constitution, the ideology is clear. If you go to APC, it's clear. But you know, it's almost like saying you want to drive a sports car on a rough road. It's not possible, Nabi. The sports car can still speed, but the rough road won't allow. So the point is that the ideology issues will sort themselves out when we have a more kinder democracy. Right now, what we have is thuggery and stealing, and so automatically you cannot have the kind of ideology politics people are thinking about. But the ideology is just some are on the left, so some are in here. They say they're on the left or the right. The right people say we don't want immigrants in our country. We don't like black people. We don't like this. So the left people say no, we are liberals. We want them. They will help us do this. Is that an ideology, really? Is it everybody in that party that will say? In fact, it's funny. Let me give you a quick one. The former Home Secretary, that's the person in charge of immigration, was Indian. She was telling people that the migrants that are coming to this country are too many. This is someone that her parents were migrants. The Minister of Industry, Kemi Badenoch, is Nigerian. She too was spitting right-wing rhetoric about immigration. You know, so that's why I always tell people that all this ideology in our job, because there's the truth that people, they just do it to win elections. You know, Kemi Badenoch doesn't believe that there are too many immigrants. You know, she just knows that if she says otherwise, the right people that are supporting their party will run away. You know, so we have to be careful that ideology is not, like somebody said, an agreement is only as good as the person that signs it. If a bad person signs an agreement, you will not keep to it now. They just tell you, go to court. Abi? Now, as we hear in Nigeria. So, you know, so the ideology is not important. I think what is important is the heart of the people that are driving the system. If the heart is good, we will have a good country.
Okay. Well, we have one comment. It's almost like an oath to either belong to the Conservative or Labour in the UK. That's because they have political ideology and strongly follow them. In Nigeria, there's no political ideology. That's why there's always cross-carpeting of political leaders.
But the person that wrote that doesn't know that Nigel Farage was also, I think, a member of the Conservatives. What's the other guy's name as well that became he ran as leader of Labour and they kicked him out. He too was pushing the right-wing rhetoric. So that's why I'm saying that the party ideology is always there. But individuals will look at what, like, why was he pushing the right-wing ideology of we don't want immigrants? Because when they voted for UK, they said this Brexit for us to exit Europe. They were surprised. They were so sure that people would not support it. But when they saw the people that were supporting, yes, we don't want all these foreigners coming to our country, they now realized that, come on, hey, for Brexit to have succeeded, people wanted them to leave Europe so that all the foreigners would go back to their country, all the Spanish people that are now living here, French, Slovaks, and then some small poor European countries have now also joined Europe. So they are now running to the UK because of the welfare system. So they saw, come on, if people are so determined to leave Europe, that means there are more people that don't want immigration. So we must start to think that we too don't want immigration, that is too much. Do you understand? Is that an ideology? It isn't now. They looked at the trend and said, oh boy, this boat is a boat to jump on, because they saw the results of the Brexit referendum. So again, ideology really is not important in today's world, because there's so many. Okay, look at things like in Nigeria, everybody's always like shouting, this person is gay, this one is that one is this. And I'm like, why do you concentrate on things? We don't want this money from this country. Because so are you saying that if you are hungry and you are about to die and a gay person comes and gives you money, you not collect it? I mean, I don't understand. You don't sign one kidney because it says gay people should do something. I'm like, where? It's just that is an ideology here. You dare not. So you dare not speak up again. Even in my house, you can't say certain things I can't say about another race, my children will not accept it. They'll be like, Dad, you can't say that. They'll actually be angry. Or the way you just say, like the guy they craze. My son is the mental health therapist. He gets angry about it. He takes it very personal. In fact, one day he said, that's how we said somebody is not well, he's sick in the head. How can we say that? We are gangsters. I beg, no vex. But the point I'm telling you that, how do you then want to say your ideology is that way? To say these people, when the whole country is saying no, you cannot discriminate against them. You just say, yes, now we accept them. In fact, we want them to come and be. In fact, it's so bad that at work they call it inclusivity. So it's not like you must have a black person, you must have an Indian, you must have a gay person, you must have a trans, you must have, because that is what you used to boast on your website, that we're an inclusive company. I'm not exaggerating, I'm telling you the truth. I once went for an interview, everybody there was black. So I knew they were looking for a black person to make up the numbers. So the point I'm making is that if you're in this kind of society, there's no ideal. Everybody just conforms. When the trend changes in society, you adopt because you want to survive. And that is it. And that's what we must do in Nigeria. We must look at what the people are saying, what are they yearning for. And that's why a lot of Nigerian governments will tell you, we don't want gay rights. Because majority of the people in Nigeria lie. So they know that if they go that way, problem they lose. You've heard that whole thing since Jonathan's time, that he was going to sign one thing, he refused to sign. That's why Obama worked against him. This. And it is very possible. But the point is that at the end of the day, you must conform to what your people want in order to win elections. So your ideology is out the window. You must just be a good person to lead in a way that is fair to all. And I think that is the best ideology of all.
Amazing. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. There are no more comments or questions. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for always making time for us.
Always.
You're like our big brother here. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the Sunday. All right,
okay.
Speak to you soon. Thank you. All
okay, sir. You too. Okay. Yes, sir. Lisa, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Well done. You look lovely, by the way. Okay, so well done, everyone. I trust you got value for this weekend's class. And I'm sure that you're ready for the presidential elections coming up this week. The timetable will be shared on the WhatsApp group shortly. Yeah, so, and I also hope that your projects, you're having headway, and you'll be concluding on that soon. So cheers, everyone. Have a great week.